The cathedral fell silent the moment Lucien Moretti stepped back from the kiss. 600 guests watched a billionaire mafia king reject his own bride at the altar, not with violence, but with 5 words whispered loud enough for the front row to hear. My heart belongs to someone dead. 24-year-old Serena Vale stood frozen in her wedding dress, humiliated, sold by her father to erase debts she never owed. This wasn't a marriage. It was a contract signed in desperation and ice. And tonight she'd discover the man who bought her was far more dangerous than any gun, because he was already destroyed. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey travels. Gasped. The morning of the wedding, Serena's father didn't look at her once. Richard Vale sat at the kitchen table of their crumbling brownstone in Brooklyn, hands shaking around a coffee cup he hadn't touched in 20 minutes. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes were bloodshot. The foreclosure notice still sat on the counter beside the arrest warrant for her younger brother, Marcus, 22 years old and facing 15 years for a drug charge that wasn't even his. Serena stood in the doorway wearing the wedding dress her father's business associate had delivered 3 days earlier, white silk, handmade lace, worth more than their house. "Dad," she said quietly. He flinched like she'd slapped him. "Don't," he whispered. "Please don't. I need you to look at me." He shook his head, knuckles white against the ceramic. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because if I do, I won't let you walk out that door." Serena's throat tightened. She crossed the kitchen and knelt beside his chair, forcing herself into his line of sight. Up close, she could see the tears he'd been fighting all morning. "This is the only way," she said. "You told me that yourself." "I told you a lot of things." His voice cracked. "Most of them were lies to make myself feel better about selling my daughter. You're saving Marcus. I'm destroying you." "No." Serena gripped his hand. "You're giving me a chance to fix what you couldn't. That's different." Richard finally looked at her. His face was hollow, carved out by guilt and shame, and the kind of desperation that turns fathers into cowards. "Lucien Moretti is not a good man, Serena." "I know. He's killed people. I know, Dad." "Then why are you still standing here in that dress?" Serena didn't answer right away. Outside, a black car idled at the curb. Armed men in suits waited beside it. The Moretti family didn't send invitations. They sent escorts. "Because Marcus is 22, she said finally. "He's got his whole life ahead of him, and you're drowning in debts you took on trying to save Mom before she died. I'm 24. I'm not in school anymore. I don't have a career. I've got nothing holding me here except the 2 of you." "That's not nothing. It's not enough." She stood, smoothing the silk against her legs. "If this marriage keeps Marcus out of prison and keeps you out of a grave, then it's worth it." "And what about you?" "I'll survive." Richard pushed to his feet, tears finally spilling over. He pulled her into a hug that felt like a goodbye, his body shaking against hers. "I'm so sorry," he choked out. "I'm so goddamn sorry." Serena closed her eyes and held him tight. "I know, Dad. I know." When she walked out the door 5 minutes later, she didn't look back. The cathedral was obscene. That was the only word for it. White roses covered every surface. Crystal chandeliers dripped light across marble floors polished to a mirror shine. Gold accents lined the pews. 600 people filled the space. Politicians, businessmen, criminals dressed in tailored suits worth more than most people earned in a year. Serena walked down the aisle alone. Her father was supposed to give her away, but he'd refused at the last second, breaking down in the car outside. So she walked herself toward the altar where Lucien Moretti waited, flanked by 2 men who looked like they'd stepped out of a war zone. She'd seen pictures of him. Everyone in New York had. But seeing him in person was different. Lucien Moretti was 34 years old and looked like violence wrapped in expensive fabric. 6'2", dark hair slicked back, sharp jaw, eyes the color of winter, cold, gray, unreadable. His suit probably cost $50,000. His watch could have paid off her father's debts twice over. He didn't smile when she reached him. Didn't flinch. Didn't react at all. He just stared at her like she was a contract he was about to sign. The ceremony blurred, words echoed across the cathedral, vows that meant nothing, promises that tasted like ash. Serena's hand shook when she slid the ring onto Lucian's finger. His hands were steady when he returned the gesture. Then the moment came. "You may kiss the bride." Serena leaned forward. Not because she wanted to, not because she expected romance, but because 600 people were watching, and she'd been taught since childhood that you finish what you start. Lucien stepped back. The movement was small, barely noticeable, but in a cathedral that silent, it might as well have been an earthquake. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Serena froze, her lips still parted, her body tilted forward into empty air. Humiliation crashed over her like ice water. Then Lucien leaned close. His breath was warm against her ear. His voice was colder than anything she'd ever heard. "My heart already belongs to a dead woman." The words echoed, not just in her head, across the entire cathedral. He'd said them loud enough for the front rows to hear, loud enough for the whispers to start immediately. Serena's vision blurred. Her chest tightened. 600 pairs of eyes burned into her back. Lucien turned and walked away from the altar. Just walked away. His men followed him like shadows, their footsteps sharp against the marble. The crowd erupted into confused murmurs. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. Serena stood there alone in her white dress, abandoned at her own wedding, while the man who'd just humiliated her disappeared through a side door without looking back. The reception was worse. Lucien showed up an hour late. No apology. No explanation. He sat at the head table beside Serena and didn't say a single word to her. When people toasted the happy couple, he raised his glass without drinking. When photographers asked for pictures, he stood beside her with the expression of a man attending a funeral. Serena smiled through all of it. She shook hands. She thanked guests. She pretended her husband hadn't just destroyed her in front of everyone who mattered in New York. But inside, she was screaming. Around midnight, Lucien finally spoke to her. "We're leaving." That was it. 2 words. No context. Serena followed him out of the reception hall and into a black SUV surrounded by armed men. The convoy moved through Manhattan like a military operation. 3 vehicles, tinted windows, drivers who didn't speak. They crossed the George Washington Bridge and headed north along the Hudson River. The city lights faded behind them. Darkness swallowed the road. 30 minutes later, they turned onto a private drive hidden behind iron gates and stone walls. The Moretti estate. It looked like a fortress. The main house was a sprawling mansion built from dark stone and steel. Floodlights illuminated the grounds. Security cameras tracked every angle. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter like soldiers. The SUV stopped at the front entrance. Lucien stepped out without waiting for her. Serena followed, her heels clicking against the marble steps. Inside, the house was cold, modern, expensive. Everything was sharp edges and dark colors, black leather, steel fixtures, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. A woman in her 50s appeared in the foyer. She wore a housekeeper's uniform and had the kind of face that had seen too much and said too little. "This is Mrs. Castellano," Lucien said flatly. "She manages the house. If you need anything, ask her." "Welcome, Mrs. Moretti," the woman said quietly. Mrs. Moretti. The name felt like a brand. Lucien started walking toward a hallway on the left. "Your room is in the east wing. Mine is in the west. You have full access to the main floors. The 3rd floor is off limits. Don't go into my office. Don't touch my things. Don't ask questions about my work." Serena's jaw tightened. "That's it? That's the whole speech?" He stopped, turned, looked at her with those winter eyes. "What were you expecting?" "I don't know, maybe an explanation for what happened at the cathedral?" "You got exactly what you signed up for, a contract, not a love story. You humiliated me. I told you the truth. If that humiliates you, that's not my problem." Heat flared in Serena's chest. "You didn't have to say it in front of everyone." "Yes, I did." "Why?" "Because I needed them to understand something." He stepped closer, not threatening, just close enough that she could see the absolute lack of emotion in his face. "You are not my wife. You are a legal arrangement designed to satisfy certain business requirements. That's all. If people think this is real, they'll expect things I will never give. So I made it clear from the beginning. Serena's hands curled into fists. Who was she? Lucien's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes, something dark and buried. That's none of your business. You made it my business when you said it at our wedding. Don't ask questions you don't want answered. Try me. For a long moment he just stared at her. Then he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing through the empty hallway. Mrs. Castellano will show you to your room, he called over his shoulder. Stay out of my way and we'll get along fine. Then he was gone. Serena stood in the foyer of her new prison, her wedding dress heavy against her legs, her hands shaking with rage and grief, and something she couldn't quite name. Mrs. Castellano touched her arm gently. Come, the older woman said quietly. I'll take you upstairs. Gasped. The East Wing was beautiful in the way a museum was beautiful. Expensive, cold, untouched. Serena's room was massive. King-sized bed, walk-in closet, private bathroom with a soaking tub, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. Everything was pristine, perfect, lifeless. She stood at the window and stared out at the black water glittering under the moonlight. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. I'm sorry. Another from Marcus. Thank you. I don't deserve this. Serena didn't respond to either. She just stood there in her wedding dress, alone in a mansion filled with ghosts, married to a man who'd made it clear she meant nothing. And for the first time since this nightmare started, she let herself cry. The next morning, Serena woke to silence. She'd barely slept. The bed was too big. The house was too quiet. Every creak and groan of the old mansion set her nerves on edge. She showered, dressed in jeans and a sweater from the closet someone had stocked with her sizes, and ventured downstairs. The main floor was empty. She wandered through hallways lined with expensive art and cold lighting until she found the kitchen. It was massive, commercial-grade appliances, marble countertops, an island big enough to seat 10 people. Mrs. Castellano was already there preparing breakfast. Good morning, Mrs. Moretti. Please, Serena said. Just call me Serena. The older woman hesitated, then nodded. Coffee? Please. Mrs. Castellano poured a cup and slid it across the counter. Mr. Moretti left early this morning. He won't be back until late. Does he do that often? Every day? Serena sipped the coffee. It was strong, bitter, perfect. What am I supposed to do here? Mrs. Castellano glanced at her. Whatever you'd like. The house is yours. It doesn't feel like mine. Give it time. How much time did it take you? The older woman smiled faintly. I've worked here for 12 years. I'm still not sure it feels like home. Serena set down the cup. Can I ask you something? Of course. The woman he mentioned at the wedding, do you know who she was? Mrs. Castellano's expression tightened. For a moment, Serena thought she wouldn't answer. Then she said quietly, her name was Elena. What happened to her? She died 8 years ago. How? Mrs. Castellano looked away. That's not my story to tell. Then whose story is it? Mr. Moretti's, and he doesn't tell it. Serena leaned against the counter, frustration bubbling under her skin. I'm supposed to live in this house with a man I don't know, pretend to be his wife, and not ask any questions? How does that work? Carefully. That's not good enough. Mrs. Castellano met her eyes. You seem like a smart woman, Serena. So let me give you some advice. Mr. Moretti is not a man who opens up. He's not a man who trusts. If you push him, he'll push back harder. If you want to survive here, you need to learn patience. I didn't come here to survive. I came here to save my family. Then you've already succeeded. Your brother's charges were dropped this morning. Your father's debts were cleared last night. You've done what you needed to do. And now what? Mrs. Castellano's smile was sad. Now you figure out how to live with the choice you made. But the days blurred together. Lucien left before dawn and returned after midnight. Serena barely saw him. When she did, he didn't speak, didn't acknowledge her, didn't even look at her. She was a ghost in her own home, but Serena refused to disappear. She started small. She learned the names of the staff. There were 12 people who worked in the house, Housekeepers, cooks, gardeners, security. Most of them were quiet, careful, trained not to engage. But Serena engaged anyway. She helped in the kitchen. She asked questions. She listened. Slowly, people started talking to her. Maria, one of the younger housekeepers, told her about her daughter's school play. Carlos, the head gardener, showed her the rose garden behind the east wing. Even the security team, stoic men with guns and scars, started nodding at her in the hallways. The house began to feel different, less like a tomb, more like a place where people actually lived. And Lucienne noticed. She could tell by the way he paused in doorways when he heard her laughing with the staff, by the way his eyes tracked her across rooms during the rare moments they crossed paths. He didn't say anything, but he was watching. Dead. 3 weeks after the wedding, Serena found the library. It was tucked away on the second floor, behind a door she'd assumed was locked. But when she tried the handle one afternoon, it opened. Inside was a room that didn't match the rest of the house. The library was warm, lived in. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls. A leather couch sat beside a stone fireplace. Soft lighting glowed from antique lamps. It smelled like old paper and wood smoke. Serena stepped inside, running her fingers along the spines of hundreds of books. Literature, history, philosophy. Some of them were first editions worth thousands of dollars. She pulled one off the shelf, The Great Gatsby, and flipped it open. A photograph fell out. Serena bent down and picked it up. The picture showed a woman in her late 20s with dark hair and a bright smile, standing in a park under golden sunlight. She wore a simple sundress and looked completely, utterly happy. Serena turned the photo over. Written on the back in sharp, angular handwriting were 2 words. Forever, Elena. Her breath caught. This was her. The dead woman Lucien couldn't let go of. Serena stared at the photograph for a long time, studying every detail. Elena wasn't just beautiful. She looked kind, warm. The kind of person who made you feel safe just by smiling at you. And Lucien had loved her, still loved her, enough to reject his own wedding, enough to live in this cold mansion surrounded by people he refused to let close, enough to destroy himself rather than move on. What are you doing in here? Serena jumped. Lucien stood in the doorway, his suit jacket gone, his sleeves rolled up. His face was hard, but his eyes were locked on the photograph in her hand. Serena's throat tightened. The door was open. You didn't think, or you didn't care. I wasn't snooping. You're holding a picture that doesn't belong to you. Serena's hands shook, but she didn't put it down. Is this her? Elena? Lucien's jaw clenched. Give it back. Not until you tell me what happened. That's not your business. You made it my business when you married me and then spent the last 3 weeks pretending I don't exist. I'm not pretending. You don't exist. Not to me. The words hit like a slap. Serena's vision blurred, but she forced herself to stay standing. Then why did you marry me? Because I needed a wife on paper, not in practice. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. He crossed the room and reached for the photograph. Serena pulled it back. Tell me what happened to her. No. Why not? Because it's none of your goddamn business. His voice cracked. Not with anger, with something rawer. You don't get to walk into this house and start digging through my life like you have a right to it. You don't know me, you don't know her, and you sure as hell don't know what happened. Then help me understand. Why? So you can feel better about being stuck here? So you can pretend this is something it's not? No. Serena stepped closer, her heart pounding. So I can stop feeling like I'm living with a stranger. Lucien stared at her. His chest rose and fell. His hands curled into fists. For a moment, she thought he might actually answer. Then he ripped the photograph out of her hand and walked out of the library without another word. The door slammed behind him. Serena stood there alone, shaking, her eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. But she didn't leave the library. Instead, she started pulling books off the shelves. If Lucien wouldn't tell her the truth, she'd find it herself. It took 2 hours, but she found more. Hidden between pages, tucked into old novels, were pieces of a life Lucien had tried to bury. More photographs of Elena, a dried flower pressed into a poetry book, A ticket stub from a movie dated 9 years ago. A handwritten note that said, "I love you more than words. Always will." Serena spread everything across the couch and stared at the fragments of a love story that ended in a grave. Elena had been a school teacher. That much was clear from the photos. Pictures of her in a classroom, surrounded by kids, laughing. She looked nothing like the women Serena imagined a mafia kingpin would fall for. She looked normal, sweet, real. And Lucien had loved her, completely. Serena's chest ached, not with jealousy, with something worse. Grief for a man who'd never stopped mourning, who'd locked himself inside this fortress and refused to let anyone close because the last person he loved had been ripped away. She understood him now, not because he'd told her, but because she'd seen the evidence of his heartbreak scattered across a dozen books. And it made everything worse, because now she knew the truth. Lucien Moretti wasn't heartless. He was destroyed, and there was no way to fix that. That night, Serena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning through everything she'd found. The photographs, the notes, the life Lucien had buried. Around 2 a.m, she heard footsteps in the hallway. She sat up. The footsteps stopped outside her door. For a long moment there was nothing. Just silence. Then a quiet knock. Serena's heart jumped. She slid out of bed, crossed the room, and opened the door. Lucien stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair disheveled, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "She was kidnapped." Serena's breath caught. "Elena," he continued, his voice flat. "She was kidnapped by people who wanted to hurt me. I got her back. But I got her back too late. She died 3 days later in a hospital bed while I sat beside her and promised her things I couldn't deliver." Tears burned Serena's eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't want your pity." "Then what do you want?" He looked away. "I don't know." Silence stretched between them. Then Lucien said, "I shouldn't have yelled at you in the library. I shouldn't have pushed. You had every right to push. This is your house now, too." "It doesn't feel like it." "I know." He exhaled slowly. "I'm not good at this, letting people in. I haven't done it in 8 years. "Why not?" "Because everyone I let close ends up dead." The words hung in the air like smoke. Serena stepped closer. "I'm not afraid of you, Lucien." "You should be." "Why?" He met her eyes. "Because if you stay close to me long enough, you'll end up just like her." Then he turned and walked back down the hallway, leaving Serena standing in the doorway with her heart pounding and the weight of his grief pressing against her chest like a stone. She didn't sleep at all after that, and somewhere deep in the house, she heard a door slam. The morning after Lucien's confession, Serena woke to the sound of shouting. She bolted upright, her heart hammering against her ribs. The voices were coming from somewhere below, muffled by walls and distance, but sharp enough to cut through the silence that usually blanketed the estate. She threw on clothes and hurried downstairs. The shouting grew louder as she approached Lucien's office on the first floor. The door was closed, but she could hear multiple voices inside. Lucien's was the loudest, cold, controlled, deadly. "I don't care what he promised you. The deal is off. You can't just walk away from this." A second voice. Male, rough. "We had an agreement. Agreements end when people break them. Nobody broke anything. Then explain to me why 3 of my shipments disappeared in the last 2 weeks." Silence. Then the second voice again, quieter now. "That wasn't us." "Then who was it?" "I don't know." "Find out." "Lucien, be reasonable." The sound of something slamming, a fist against wood maybe, made Serena flinch. "Get out," Lucien said. "Before I decide reasonable isn't worth the effort." Footsteps. The door opened. 2 men in dark suits emerged, their faces tight with barely controlled anger. They saw Serena standing in the hallway and stopped. One of them, a man in his 40s with a scar running down his jaw, smiled. It wasn't friendly. "Well, well, the new Mrs. Moretti." Serena didn't move. The man stepped closer. "You picked a hell of a time to marry into this family, sweetheart." "Back off, Tony." The second man grabbed his arm. Let's go." Tony shrugged him off but didn't approach any further. He just looked at Serena with something between pity and amusement. "Good luck," he said. You're going to need it." Then they walked past her and disappeared down the hallway. Serena's pulse was racing. She turned toward the office. Lucien stood behind his desk, both hands braced against the surface, his head bowed. He looked like a man holding himself together by sheer force of will. "You shouldn't be here," he said without looking up. "I heard shouting." "That's not your concern. Everything that happens in this house is my concern now." He lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then explain it to me." "No." Serena stepped into the office. "Stop shutting me out. Stop walking into rooms you don't belong in. I'm your wife. On paper." His voice cracked like a whip. "That's all you are. A signature on a contract. You don't get to walk into my office and demand explanations about my business. Your business just threatened me in my own hallway." That stopped him. Lucien straightened slowly, his expression darkening. "What did he say?" "It doesn't matter." "Tell me what he said." "He said I picked a hell of a time to marry you." "What did he mean?" Lucien's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Vincent, Tony Ricci just walked out of my office. Follow him. If he so much as looks at my wife again, break his legs." He ended the call and shoved the phone back into his pocket. "You didn't have to do that," Serena said quietly. "Yes, I did." "Why?" "Because you're under my protection now, whether you like it or not." "I don't need your protection." "You have no idea what you need." He crossed the room and stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the exhaustion carved into his face. "This world I'm in, it's not something you understand. People like Tony, they don't see you as a person. They see you as leverage, as a weakness they can exploit. The moment they think I care about you, you become a target." "So what? You're just going to keep pretending I don't exist?" "Yes." "That's not going to work." "It has to." "Why?" "Because I can't lose someone else." The words burst out of him like they'd been locked behind his teeth for years. "I can't sit beside another hospital bed and watch another person He stopped, swallowed hard. "I can't do it again, Serena. I won't survive it." The rawness in his voice made her chest ache. "Then stop treating me like I'm already dead," she said softly. He stared at her. His hands were shaking. Then he turned and walked out of the office without another word, leaving her standing there alone with her heart pounding and her throat tight. The estate became a pressure cooker after that. Lucien disappeared for days at a time. When he was home, he moved through the house like a ghost, silent, unreachable, locked inside his own head. The staff grew quieter. The security team doubled. Armed men patrolled the grounds 24 hours a day. Something was happening. Serena could feel it in the air, a tension that vibrated through the walls like an electric current. She tried asking Mrs. Castellano. "I don't know what's going on," the older woman said. "And even if I did, I couldn't tell you." "Why not?" "Because Mr. Moretti's business is his business, not mine, not yours. I'm his wife." "Then ask him yourself." But Lucien wasn't talking, so Serena started watching. She noticed the late-night meetings in his office, the phone calls that sent him pacing through the house at 3 in the morning, the way his second-in-command, a man named Vincent Caruso, showed up almost every day with files and reports that made Lucien's expression darker. Something was falling apart, and nobody was telling her what. A week after the confrontation in his office, Serena found Lucien in the library at midnight. He was sitting on the couch with a glass of whiskey in one hand and a file folder in the other. He didn't look up when she entered. "Go to bed, Serena." "I can't sleep." "Not my problem." She crossed the room and sat down on the opposite end of the couch. He still didn't look at her. "What are you reading?" she asked. "Nothing you need to worry about." "Try me." He finally lifted his eyes. "You don't give up, do you?" "No." "That's going to get you killed." "You keep saying that, but I'm still here." Lucien set down the glass and tossed the file onto the coffee table. "You want to know what's in there? Fine. It's a list of everyone in my organization who might be leaking information to the feds. There are 12 names on it. 3 of them have been with me for over a decade. One of them saved my life in prison. Another one was at my wedding to Elena." Serena's stomach turned. You think someone's betraying you? I don't think. I know. Someone's been feeding information to federal investigators for months. Shipments are disappearing. Deals are falling through. People who should be in jail are walking free because charges keep getting dropped at the last second. That only happens when someone on the inside is talking. And you don't know who. If I knew who, they'd already be dead. The words were matter of fact, no emotion, just a simple statement of reality. Serena's throat tightened. What happens when you find out? I deal with it. What does that mean? He looked at her. It means exactly what you think it means. You're going to kill them. Yes. Even if it's someone you trust. Especially if it's someone I trust. Betrayal from a stranger is expected. Betrayal from family is unforgivable. That's not family, that's fear. It's survival. He leaned back against the couch, his eyes on the ceiling. You don't understand how this works. In my world, loyalty is everything. The moment someone breaks that loyalty, they become a liability. And liabilities get eliminated. That's the rule. That's a terrible rule. It's kept me alive for 20 years. At what cost? At whatever cost necessary. Serena shook her head. You can't live like that forever. Watch me. You're already dying. You're just too stubborn to admit it. His eyes snapped to hers. What the hell are you talking about? Look at yourself, Lucien. You're locked in this house with guards and guns and paranoia. You don't trust anyone. You don't let anyone close. You're so obsessed with survival that you've forgotten how to live. I don't need a lecture from someone who's been here 5 weeks. Maybe that's exactly why you need it. Because everyone else around you is too scared to tell you the truth. And what's the truth? That you're not protecting yourself. You're burying yourself. Silence dropped between them like a stone. Lucien stared at her, his jaw tight, his hands curled into fists against his thighs. Then he stood up, grabbed the file, and walked out of the library without another word. But this time, Serena didn't feel like she'd lost, because she'd seen something in his eyes before he left. Not anger, recognition. 2 days later, Lucien asked her to accompany him to a charity event in Manhattan. It was the first time he'd spoken to her since the library conversation. I need you to be seen with me, he said over breakfast. People are starting to ask questions. What kind of questions? The kind that make me look weak. Serena set down her coffee cup. So I'm a prop. You're my wife. That's what wives do. Wow. You really know how to make a girl feel special. He didn't smile. Can you do it or not? She wanted to say no, wanted to tell him to go to hell, but the look on his face stopped her. He wasn't being cruel. He was being desperate. Fine, she said. But you owe me. Add it to the list. The event was held at a hotel ballroom in Midtown. Black tie, champagne, politicians, and criminals pretending they weren't the same people. Serena wore a black dress that fit like armor. Lucien wore a tuxedo that made him look like death wrapped in silk. They arrived together. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Lucien ignored all of it, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back as they walked into the ballroom. Inside, the room was filled with people who smiled too much and watched too closely. Lucien introduced her to dozens of them. Business associates, politicians, men who looked at her like she was a puzzle they were trying to solve. She smiled through all of it, played the role, stood beside Lucien like she belonged there. But the whole time she could feel the tension radiating off him. Something was wrong. Around 10 o'clock, a man approached them near the bar. He was in his 50s, silver-haired, expensive suit. He smiled at Serena like they were old friends. Lucien, good to see you. Marco. Lucien's voice was flat. And this must be the new Mrs. Moretti. Marco extended his hand. I've heard so much about you. Serena shook it. All good things, I hope. Of course. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Though I'll admit I was surprised when I heard Lucien got married. He always struck me as the bachelor type. People change, Serena said. Do they? Marco looked at Lucien. I wouldn't have thought you capable of it. Lucien's hand tightened against Serena's back. Was there something you wanted, Marco? Just making conversation? Then make it somewhere else. Marco's smile faltered, but he recovered quickly. Of course. Enjoy your evening. He walked away. Serena looked up at Lucien. Who was that? Nobody you need to worry about. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Lucien. Drop it, Serena. But she didn't drop it, because 20 minutes later she saw Marco talking to one of the men from Lucien's list, the one who'd saved his life in prison. And the look they exchanged made her blood run cold. Ick. The drive home was silent. Lucien stared out the window, his jaw tight, his hands curled into fists. Serena wanted to tell him what she'd seen, wanted to ask if Marco was the traitor, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the look on Lucien's face. Maybe it was the way his breathing had changed, shallow, controlled, like he was holding himself together by force. When they reached the estate, he got out of the car without waiting for her. She followed him inside. Lucien, wait. He kept walking. I need to talk to you. Not now. It's important. He stopped, turned. What? I saw something tonight. What are you talking about? At the event. That man, Marco. I saw him talking to one of your guys, the one from the list you showed me. And the way they looked at each other. Stop. Lucien, I think... I said, stop. He stepped closer, his eyes dark. You don't know what you saw. I know enough. You know nothing. You've been in this world for 5 weeks. You don't understand how it works. You don't understand the players. You don't understand the rules. Then help me understand. No. His voice was ice. Because the moment I let you into this, you become part of it, and I won't do that to you. You already did that when you married me. That was different. How? Because I didn't care about you then. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. Lucien's face went pale. He took a step back, his expression stricken. Serena's heart was pounding. What did you just say? Nothing. Lucien, forget it. He turned and started walking toward his office, but Serena grabbed his arm. He stopped, didn't turn around. You care about me, she said quietly. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. You heard wrong. I heard exactly what you said. Silence. Then Lucien pulled his arm free and walked away without looking back. But the damage was already done, because now Serena knew the truth, and she couldn't unknow it. The next morning, everything exploded. Serena woke to the sound of shouting, louder this time, more urgent. She threw on clothes and ran downstairs. The front entrance was filled with men, security, staff. Vincent Caruso stood in the center, his face pale, his hands shaking. What's going on? Serena asked. Nobody answered. Then Lucien appeared at the top of the stairs. He looked like he hadn't slept. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair was disheveled, but his eyes were sharp, focused, deadly. Where is he? Lucien's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Vincent looked up. I don't know. He's gone. Gone where? I don't know. Find him. Now. Lucien, listen to me. I'm done listening. Lucien descended the stairs, his footsteps echoing through the foyer. Someone in this organization has been leaking information for months. Shipments are disappearing. Deals are falling through. And now one of my most trusted men vanishes overnight? That's not a coincidence. You don't know that he's the one. Then where the hell is he? Vincent didn't answer. Lucien stepped closer. I want every phone record, every bank account, every movement he's made in the last 6 months. If he so much as sneezed in the wrong direction, I want to know about it. And if we find him, bring him to me. Lucien, that's an order, Vincent. The room went silent. Vincent nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Lucien turned and saw Serena standing by the stairs. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Go back upstairs, he said. No. This isn't your concern. You keep saying that, but I'm still here. Serena, who's missing? He stared at her. Then he said quietly, Antonio, the man who saved his life in prison. Serena's stomach dropped. You think he's the traitor? I don't think. I know. How? Because he's the only one who could have done this. Done what? Lucien's jaw tightened. 3 of my warehouses were raided by federal agents last night. Millions of dollars in products seized, 12 arrests, and every single raid happened within a 30-minute window. That kind of coordination only happens when someone on the inside gives them everything they need. And you think Antonio Espautais it is? I don't think. I know. He's the only one with access to those locations, the only one who knew the schedules, the only one who could have coordinated the timing. Serena's heart was racing. What are you going to do? What I should have done months ago. Lucienne, go upstairs, Serena, please. The word please stopped her, because Lucienne Moretti didn't say please, not to anyone. She turned and walked back upstairs, her hands shaking, her mind spinning. Behind her, she heard Lucien giving orders, cold, precise, lethal, and she knew without a doubt that someone was about to die. For 3 days, the estate was on lockdown. Nobody in, nobody out. Armed guards patrolled every entrance. Security cameras tracked every corner. Serena barely saw Lucien. He was always in his office, always on the phone, always moving. But when she did see him, he looked worse, thinner, darker, like something inside him was burning out. On the 4th day, Vincent came to the estate at dawn. Serena heard the cars pull up, heard the voices in the foyer. She walked to the top of the stairs and looked down. Lucien stood in the entrance, his face pale, his hands shaking. Vincent was talking quickly. We found him. He was at a safe house in Jersey. He's downstairs now. Is he talking? No. Make him talk. Lucien, I don't care what you have to do. Make him talk. Vincent hesitated. Then he nodded and walked toward the basement door. Serena's blood ran cold. She descended the stairs slowly. Lucien saw her and shook his head. Don't. What are you going to do? What I have to. You're going to torture him. I'm going to get answers. That's the same thing. No, it's not. Lucien, you don't even know if he's guilty. He ran. That's proof enough. That's not proof. That's fear. In my world, there's no difference. Serena stepped closer. What if you're wrong? What if he's not the traitor? Then I'll deal with that when it happens. And if you kill an innocent man? He's not innocent. You don't know that. Yes, I do. His voice cracked. Because I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've learned to recognize betrayal when I see it. Antonio ran. He disappeared the night before the raids. He's guilty, Serena, and I'm going to make him admit it. And then what? Then I'm going to kill him. The words were so matter-of-fact, so emotionless, that they hit her like a punch. Please don't do this, she said quietly. It's already done. No, it's not. You can still stop this. You can still... I can't. His voice broke. Don't you understand? I can't let betrayal go unpunished. The moment I do, I lose everything. My reputation, my organization, my life. People only follow me because they know I'm willing to do whatever it takes. The second they think I'm weak, they'll turn on me. All of them. So you're going to murder someone to prove a point? I'm going to protect what's mine. By destroying yourself in the process? He stared at her. His chest was heaving. His hands were shaking. Then he turned and walked toward the basement door. Lucien, wait! He stopped, didn't turn around. Please, Serena said. Just give me 5 minutes with him. Let me talk to him first. Why? Because if you're right, it won't matter. But if you're wrong, you'll never forgive yourself. Silence. Then Lucien said quietly, You have 3 minutes. After that, I'm going down there, whether you're done or not. He walked away. Serena stood there, her heart pounding, her mind racing. Then she turned and walked toward the basement door. Eatkick. The basement was cold, dark, concrete walls and exposed pipes. Antonio sat in a chair in the center of the room, his hands zip-tied behind his back, his face bruised and bloodied. 2 guards stood behind him. Serena stepped into the room, her legs shaking. Antonio looked up. His left eye was swollen shut, his lip was split. But when he saw her, he almost smiled. Mrs. Moretti, he said hoarsely. Come to watch the show? I came to talk. Lucien send you? No. Then you're stupider than I thought. Serena pulled over a chair and sat down in front of him. Did you do it? Do what? Betray him. Antonio laughed. It sounded like broken glass. Does it matter? He's already made up his mind. It matters to me. Why? Because I don't want him to kill an innocent man. Then you're going to be disappointed. Antonio leaned forward as much as the restraints allowed. Because I did it. Every last bit of it. I leaked the locations, I coordinated the raids, I handed the feds everything they needed to tear down Lucian's empire. Serena's stomach turned. Why? Because I'm tired. His voice cracked. I've been doing this for 20 years. 20 years of blood and bodies and looking over my shoulder. 20 years of watching good people die because they got too close. I'm 53 years old. I've got grandkids I've never met because I'm too dangerous to be around. And for what? So Lucien Moretti can keep building an empire that's going to collapse the second he's gone. So you sold him out. I gave him a way out. The feds offered me immunity in exchange for information. I took it, and I gave them just enough to force Lucien to walk away before this whole thing burns down and takes everyone with it. That's not your decision to make. Someone had to make it, because Lucien sure as hell wasn't going to. Serena stared at him. You really think betraying him was the right call? I think it was the only call. Antonio's voice softened. I saved his life once, in prison. Took a shank that was meant for him. And you know what he did? He made me his second in command, trusted me with everything, treated me like family. And that's exactly why I did this, because family doesn't let family destroy themselves. He's going to kill you. I know. And you're okay with that? Antonio smiled. It was sad. Broken. I made my peace with it the moment I made the call. The door at the top of the stairs opened. Footsteps descended. Lucien appeared in the doorway, his face carved from stone. Time's up, he said. Serena stood. Lucien, get out, Serena. He admitted it, but listen to me. I said get out. She looked at Antonio, then at Lucien, and she realized there was nothing she could say that would change what was about to happen. So she walked past Lucien and climbed the stairs without looking back. Behind her, she heard Antonio say quietly, Make it quick, Lucien. That's all I ask. And Lucien's voice, colder than ice, You don't get to ask for anything. The door slammed shut. Serena stood in the foyer, her hands shaking, her heart pounding. She waited. 10 minutes passed. Then she heard a single gunshot echo through the house like thunder, and she knew it was over. Lucien didn't come upstairs for hours. When he finally appeared, it was after midnight. He walked past her without a word, his clothes stained, his face hollow. Serena followed him. Lucien. He didn't stop. Lucien, please. He kept walking. She grabbed his arm. He spun around, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw real emotion on his face. Grief. Don't touch me, he said quietly. Talk to me. There's nothing to say. You just killed someone. I've killed a lot of people. Not like this. Not someone you trusted. His jaw tightened. He betrayed me. He was trying to save you. By destroying everything I built. By giving you a way out. I don't want a way out. His voice broke. I want to survive. That's all I've ever wanted. And the only way to survive is to make sure people know what happens when they cross me. So you become a monster? I've always been a monster, Serena. You're just finally seeing it. No. She stepped closer. You're not a monster. You're just scared. I'm not scared of anything. Yes, you are. You're terrified that if you stop being ruthless, if you stop being feared, you'll end up like Elena, dead because someone decided you were weak enough to hurt. His eyes went wide. And you know what? Serena continued. You're right. You probably will end up dead someday. Because this life you're living, it's a death sentence. Everyone around you knows it. But the difference between them and you is that they're trying to survive. And you're just trying not to feel anything. Lucien stared at her, his chest heaving, his hands shaking. Then he turned and walked away. But this time, Serena didn't follow, because she'd finally said everything she needed to say. And whatever happened next was up to him. The next morning, Serena packed a bag. She didn't have a plan, didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay in this house anymore. She was halfway down the stairs when she saw Lucien waiting in the foyer. He looked at the bag in her hand. "Where are you going?" "I don't know, anywhere but here." "You can't leave." "Watch me." "Serena." "I'm done, Lucien." "And I tried. I really did. But I can't live in a house where people get executed in the basement. I can't sleep in a bed knowing the man I'm married to is capable of that. I told you who I was from the beginning. No, you told me what you wanted me to believe, but I know better now. And I can't do this anymore." She walked toward the door. Lucien stepped in front of her. "Move," she said. "No." "I'm not asking." "Neither am I." He took a breath. Antonio wasn't the only traitor. Serena froze. "What?" "I had Vincent run a full audit after we brought Antonio in. He found evidence of a second leak. Someone else has been feeding information to the feds, someone higher up." "Who?" "I don't know yet, but whoever it is, they're still in my organization. Still working, still planning, and if you leave this house right now, you become a target." Serena's stomach dropped. "You're lying." "I wish I was. This is just another manipulation to keep me here." "Believe whatever you want, but if you walk out that door, you're on your own, and I can't protect you if you're not here." She stared at him, her heart pounding. "Why do you even care?" she asked. He didn't answer. "Lucien, why do you care?" His jaw tightened. Then he said quietly, "Because I can't lose you." The words hit her like a freight train. "What? You heard me. You barely know me." "I know enough." "This is insane." "I know. You don't love me." "I don't know what I feel." His voice was raw. "All I know is that when I thought about you leaving, I couldn't breathe, and I haven't felt that way about anyone since Elena died." Tears burned Serena's eyes. "That's not fair," she whispered. "I know. You can't ask me to stay after what you did." "I'm not asking. I'm begging." The word shattered something inside her, because Lucien Moretti didn't beg, not for anything. Serena dropped the bag. "If I stay," she said quietly, "things have to change." "How?" "No more secrets. No more shutting me out. If there's danger, you tell me. If there's a problem, we deal with it together, and no more executions without proof." Lucien stared at her. "I can't promise that." "Then I walk." Silence stretched between them. Then Lucien said, "Fine." "Fine? You want transparency? You've got it. You want partnership? You've got it. But don't expect me to change overnight. I've been doing this my way for 20 years. It's not going to be easy." "I don't need easy. I need honest." "Then you'll get honest." Serena picked up the bag and carried it back upstairs. Behind her, she heard Lucien exhale, a sound somewhere between relief and terror, and she realized they'd just crossed a line neither of them could uncross. There was no going back now. The first 48 hours after Serena agreed to stay felt like walking through a minefield blindfolded. Lucien kept his word about transparency, but transparency in his world meant something completely different than she'd imagined. He started bringing her into meetings. Not all of them, just the ones that didn't involve active violence. She sat in his office while he coordinated shipments, negotiated deals, managed the dozens of moving parts that kept his empire functioning, and she learned exactly how deep the rot went. The second traitor wasn't just leaking information. They were systematically dismantling Lucien's organization from the inside. Bank accounts were being drained, suppliers were disappearing, allies were turning hostile overnight. Someone was burning it all down, and they were doing it slowly enough that by the time anyone noticed, it would be too late to stop. Vincent Caruso spent 72 hours straight tracking financial records, phone logs, surveillance footage. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Dark circles carved shadows under his eyes. His hand shook when he held his coffee. On the third morning, he walked into Lucien's office and dropped a file on the desk. "I found something," Vincent said. Lucien looked up from the laptop he'd been staring at for the past 6 hours. Serena sat in the corner, watching both of them. "What is it?" Lucien asked. "A pattern. 3 months ago, someone started accessing your offshore accounts, small withdrawals. Nothing big enough to trigger alerts, but consistent. Every week. Same time, same amount." "How much total?" 4 million. Lucien's jaw tightened. Who has access to those accounts? Only 4 people. You, me, your attorney, and your accountant. It's not you. I know. And it's not me. I know that too. Lucien leaned back in his chair. So it's either Marcus Chen or David Brennan. I think it's Chen. Why? Because Brennan's been with you for 15 years. Chen's only been here 3. That's not evidence, that's prejudice. It's intuition. Intuition gets people killed. Lucy Mo stood and walked to the window overlooking the river. Pull all of Chen's records, bank accounts, phone logs, travel history. I want to know everywhere he's been and everyone he's talked to for the last 6 months. Already did. There's nothing. Then dig deeper. Lucy and I've been digging for 3 days straight. If there was something to find, I would have found it. Then you're not looking hard enough. Vincent's expression hardened. I've been doing this job for 12 years. I know how to investigate. And I'm telling you, if Chen is the traitor, he's covered his tracks so well that we'll never prove it. So what do you suggest? Bring him in, question him directly. And if he's innocent, then we apologize and move on. And if he's guilty? Vincent didn't answer. He didn't have to. Serena stood. You can't just kidnap your own accountant. Both men looked at her. This isn't a debate, Lucien said. I'm not debating. I'm telling you this is insane. You don't have any real evidence, just suspicion. In my world, suspicion is enough. Your world is falling apart because you keep making decisions based on fear instead of facts. Serena, no, listen to me. Antonio confessed because he was guilty. But what if Chen doesn't confess? What if he's innocent and you torture him for information he doesn't have? You'll destroy another life for nothing. Better his life than mine. That's not leadership. That's paranoia. Lucien crossed the room and stopped in front of her. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. You want to know what leadership looks like in this world? It looks like making impossible choices to protect the people who depend on you. It looks like doing things that keep you awake at night because the alternative is worse. You think I like this? You think I enjoy suspecting everyone around me? I don't. But I don't have the luxury of trusting people anymore. Because the last time I trusted someone, they put a bullet in the woman I loved. The words hung in the air like smoke. Serena's throat tightened. Elena's death wasn't about trust. It was about circumstances you couldn't control. No, it was about being too weak to see the threat before it was too late. You're not weak, Lucien. You're terrified, and you're making decisions based on trauma instead of logic. Then what would you do? I talked to him directly. No threats, no violence, just a conversation. If he's guilty, you'll know. If he's innocent, you'll know that too. Lucien stared at her. Then he turned to Vincent. Set up a meeting tomorrow morning, here. Just me and Chen. Vincent nodded and left the office. Serena exhaled slowly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. If he's the traitor, this is going to get ugly. And if he's not, then we're back to square one. Marcus Chen arrived at the estate at 9 the next morning. He was a small man in his early 40s with wire-rimmed glasses and the kind of nervous energy that made him look like he was always 2 seconds away from a panic attack. He carried a briefcase and wore a suit that didn't quite fit. Lucien met him in the library. Serena waited outside the door, listening. Mr. Moretti, you said this was urgent? Sit down, Marcus. A pause. The sound of a chair scraping against wood. Is something wrong with the accounts? Chen's voice was high, strained. You tell me. I don't understand. $4 million has disappeared from my offshore accounts over the last 3 months. Small withdrawals, regular intervals. Someone with access has been bleeding me dry. Silence. Then Chen said quietly, You think it was me? Was it? No, absolutely not. Mr. Moretti, I've managed your finances for 3 years. I've never taken a cent that wasn't authorized. Then explain the withdrawals. I can't. I didn't make them. Someone did. Then it wasn't me. Lucien's voice dropped. Look at me, Marcus. A pause. I need you to understand something. If you're lying to me, I will find out. And when I do, there won't be a conversation. There won't be an explanation. There will only be consequences. So I'm giving you one chance to tell me the truth. Did you steal from me? No. Chen's voice was shaking now. I swear to you, I didn't. Another long silence. Then Lucien said, Get out. What? Get out. You're fired. I'll have someone forward your final paycheck. Don't come back here. Mr. Moretti, please. I said get out. Footsteps. The door opened. Chen stumbled out, his face pale, his hands trembling. He saw Serena standing in the hallway and stopped. He thinks I stole from him, Chen said. I didn't. I swear I didn't. I believe you, Serena said quietly. Then why is he doing this? Because he's scared, and scared people make mistakes. Chen shook his head and walked away, his footsteps echoing through the empty hall. Serena entered the library. Lucien stood by the window, his back to her. You didn't believe him, she said. I don't know what I believe. So you fired him anyway. I can't afford to take chances. You just destroyed that man's life on a hunch. Better his life than mine. Serena crossed the room and grabbed his arm, forcing him to turn around. You keep saying that, but what kind of life are you protecting? You're alone. You're paranoid. You're burning bridges faster than you're building them. At some point, you're going to wake up and realize there's no one left. Then I'll handle it. No, you won't. Because you can't handle everything alone. Nobody can. He stared at her. His eyes were bloodshot. His jaw was tight. Then he said quietly, I'm tired, Serena. I know. I've been doing this for 20 years, and every year it gets harder. The enemies multiply. The threats never stop. I can't remember the last time I slept through the night without waking up expecting someone to put a bullet in my head. Then stop. I can't. Why not? Because the moment I stop, I'm dead. You're already dead. You're just too stubborn to lie down. The words hit him like a slap. He turned back to the window without responding. Serena left him there, alone with his ghosts. Oops. 2 days later, Vincent found the real traitor. It wasn't Marcus Chen. It wasn't anyone they'd suspected. It was David Brennan, Lucien's attorney, the man who'd been with him for 15 years. Vincent brought the evidence to Lucien's office at 2 a.m. Serena was there too. She'd started sleeping in the library because going back to her empty room felt like admitting defeat. Vincent spread papers across the desk. Bank records, wire transfers, email correspondence. Brennan's been working with the feds for 8 months, Vincent said. He gave them everything, account numbers, supplier names, shipment routes. He's the reason the raids have been so precise. He knew exactly where to send them. Lucien stared at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. David's been with me since I got out of prison, he said quietly. He defended me when nobody else would. He's been at every major decision I've made for 15 years. I know. He was at my wedding to Elena. I know. He held my hand at her funeral. Lucien, why? His voice cracked. Why would he do this? Vincent pulled out another document. Immunity deal. Signed 6 months ago. The feds promised him witness protection in exchange for testimony. He's been building a case against you this entire time. Serena felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Where is he now? I don't know. He stopped showing up to the office 3 days ago. We've been trying to track him, but he's gone dark. Lucien stood slowly. His hands were shaking. Find him. Lucien, find him. I don't care what it takes. I want him in front of me before sunrise. That's not going to happen. He's probably already in federal custody. Then get him out. We can't just... Get him out! Lucien's voice exploded through the office. I don't care if you have to burn down every federal building in Manhattan. I want David Brennan in this house by morning. Vincent looked at Serena. She shook her head slightly. I'll do what I can, Vincent said carefully. But if he's already talking to the feds, there's nothing we can do to stop it. Then we minimize the damage. How? By disappearing. Serena stood. What are you talking about? Lucien turned to her. He knows everything, every account, every supplier, every safe house. If he's giving that information to federal investigators, they'll have enough to dismantle the entire organization within a week, maybe less. So what are you going to do? What I should have done years ago. Walk away. Vincent's eyes went wide. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. We liquidate everything. Move the money offshore. Burn the records. Scatter the assets. By the time the feds finish building their case, there won't be anything left to prosecute. That'll take weeks. Then we do it in days. Lucien, this is insane. No. Insane is sitting here waiting for them to knock down the door. We move now, or we all go to prison. Those are the options. Silence filled the office. Then Serena said quietly, "What about me?" Lucien looked at her. "You're coming with me." "Where?" "I don't know yet. Somewhere they can't find us." "And what happens to my father, my brother?" "They'll be fine. You're the one who signed the contract. You're the one they'll connect to me. So I'm just supposed to run? Leave everything behind?" "Yes." "That's not fair." "Nothing about this is fair, but it's the only way you survive." Serena's chest tightened. She looked at Vincent, then back at Lucien. "I need to think," she said. "You have until sunrise. After that, we're gone whether you're ready or not." She walked out of the office, her heart pounding, her mind spinning. Behind her, she heard Vincent say, "You're really going to do this?" And Lucien's response, cold as winter, "I don't have a choice, Serena didn't sleep. She spent the rest of the night pacing her room, trying to process everything that had just happened. David Brennan, the man Lucien trusted more than anyone, had been systematically destroying him for months. And now Lucien wanted to burn everything down and disappear. It was insane, but it was also the only move that made sense. At dawn, she went back downstairs. The house was chaos. Staff members were packing boxes. Security teams were loading vehicles. Vincent was on the phone coordinating movements across the city. Serena found Lucien in his office, burning documents in the fireplace. "I'm coming with you," she said. He looked up. "You're sure?" "No, but I don't have a better option." "This isn't going to be easy." "Nothing with you is easy." He almost smiled. "Fair point." She crossed the room and sat on the edge of his desk. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere without extradition treaties." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have right now." "Lucien!" The sound of tires screeching outside cut her off. Both of them turned toward the window. 3 black SUVs skidded to a stop in front of the house. Doors opened. Federal agents poured out, weapons drawn, vests marked with FBI and bright yellow letters. "No," Lucien breathed. Vincent burst into the office. "They're surrounding the house. Front and back. We're trapped." Lucien moved to the window. His face went pale. Serena stood beside him and looked out at the small army assembling in the driveway. At the front of the group stood a man in his 50s wearing a suit and a Kevlar vest. He held a megaphone. "Lucien Moretti, this is the FBI. We have a warrant for your arrest. Come out with your hands up." Lucien's hands curled into fists against the windowsill. "How did they find us so fast?" Serena whispered. Vincent's voice was hollow. "Brennan must have told them we were planning to run." The agent with the megaphone spoke again. "You have 60 seconds to exit the premises. After that, we're coming in." Lucien turned to Vincent. "Is there a way out?" "The tunnel in the basement. It leads to the river." "Can we make it?" "Not all of us. They'll have agents covering the exit points." "Then who goes?" Vincent looked at Serena, then back at Lucien. "She does." "What?" Serena said. "You're not indicted," Vincent continued. "You're just the wife. If we get you out now, you can disappear. Start over. They'll question you, but they can't hold you." "I'm not leaving him." "You don't have a choice." "Yes, I do." Lucien grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to me. If you stay here, you're going to get dragged into this. They'll charge you as an accomplice. You'll spend the next decade fighting in court. Your life will be destroyed." "My life is already destroyed." "Not yet. But it will be if you don't leave right now." Tears burned her eyes. "I just said I'd stay. And now I'm telling you to go." "Lucien, please." His voice broke. "Please, Serena. I can't watch another person I care about get destroyed because of me. I won't survive it. So please, just go." The megaphone voice echoed again. 30 seconds. Vincent grabbed Serena's arm. "We need to move, now." She pulled free. "No." "Serena, I said no." Lucien cupped her face in his hands. "I need you to trust me. One last time. Go with Vincent. Get out of here and don't look back. What are you going to do? What I should have done a long time ago. Face it. They'll lock you up forever. Probably. Then let me stay. Let me... He kissed her. It was brief, desperate, final. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. Go, he whispered. Then he pushed her toward Vincent. Vincent grabbed her and dragged her out of the office before she could fight back. She screamed Lucien's name, but he didn't follow. The last thing she saw before Vincent pulled her down the basement stairs was Lucien standing in the office window watching federal agents storm the house. And then he was gone. The tunnel was narrow, dark, suffocating. Vincent led the way with a flashlight, moving fast. Serena stumbled behind him, her chest heaving, her mind blank with shock. They reached the exit, a metal grate leading to the riverbank. Vincent kicked it open and pulled her through. Cold air hit her face. The Hudson stretched out in front of them, black and endless. A boat was waiting, small, unmarked. Get in, Vincent said. Serena climbed aboard, her legs shaking. Vincent started the engine and pulled away from the shore. Behind them, the estate glowed with floodlights. She could hear shouting, sirens. Where are we going? She asked. Safe house in Jersey. You'll stay there until we figure out next steps. What about Lucien? Vincent didn't answer. Vincent, what about Lucien? He looked at her. His face was hollow. He's gone, Serena. The moment those agents walked into that house, he was gone. They'll make a deal. There's no deal. Brennan gave them everything, every crime, every transaction, every body. Lucien's going away for life. The words hit her like ice water. No. I'm sorry. No. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix. It's over. Serena stared at the shrinking lights of the estate. Her chest felt like it was caving in. Lucien was gone, and she'd never even told him the truth. That somewhere between the humiliation at the cathedral and the kiss in his office, she'd fallen in love with him. P. The safe house was a cramped apartment in a building that smelled like mold and cigarettes. Vincent left her there with a burner phone and instructions to stay inside. Serena sat on the couch and stared at the wall for 6 hours straight. Around midnight, the phone rang. She answered it without thinking. Serena. The voice was female. Familiar. Who is this? It's me. Serena's blood went cold because the voice belonged to someone who was supposed to be dead. Elena Moretti. The phone felt like it was burning Serena's hand. Elena Moretti. The woman who was supposed to be 8 years dead. The woman whose ghost had haunted every corner of Lucien's life. The woman whose memory had destroyed any chance Serena had of building something real. That's impossible, Serena whispered. I know how this sounds. Elena's voice was steady, calm, like she was discussing the weather instead of announcing her resurrection from the grave. But I need you to listen very carefully. Lucien is in danger, real danger, and you're the only person who can help him. You're dead. He watched you die. He watched someone die. It wasn't me. Serena's head was spinning. I don't understand. Meet me. Tonight. There's a diner on Route 9 in Hackensack. Carlos. I'll be in the back booth. Come alone. Don't tell Vincent. Don't tell anyone. Why would I trust you? Because if you don't, Lucien's going to die in federal custody within 48 hours, and that blood will be on both our hands. The line went dead. Serena sat there staring at the phone, her heart hammering so hard she thought her ribs might crack. This was insane. Elena Moretti was dead. Lucien had held her hand while she died. He'd buried her. He'd spent 8 years mourning her. But the voice on the phone had been real, too specific, too certain. Serena stood up. Her legs were shaking. She grabbed her jacket and walked out of the safe house into the cold Jersey night. Hiss. Carlo's diner looked like it hadn't been renovated since 1975. Cracked vinyl booths, flickering neon sign, the smell of burnt coffee and grease hanging in the air like a fog. Serena pushed through the door at 1 a.m. The place was nearly empty. A waitress behind the counter, an old man nursing coffee at the front, and in the back booth, partially hidden in shadow, sat a woman with dark hair and haunted eyes. Elena. Serena's breath caught. She looked exactly like the photographs. Same delicate features, same sharp intelligence in her gaze, but older now, worn down by something heavy. Serena slid into the booth across from her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Elena said quietly, "You look like hell." "You look dead." Elena's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Fair point. Start talking, before I walk out of here and never look back." Elena folded her hands on the table. Her fingers were scarred, old burns maybe, or something worse. 8 years ago, I was kidnapped by men who wanted to hurt Lucian. He came for me. He always came for me. But I was already dying by the time he found me. Internal bleeding, broken ribs. They'd beaten me for 3 days straight. Serena's stomach turned. "Lucien got me to a hospital," Elena continued. "But the doctor said I wouldn't make it. Too much damage, too much blood loss. So I made a decision." "What decision?" "I told the doctors to pronounce me dead, and I told Lucien to let me go." "Why?" "Because as long as I was alive, I was a weapon people could use against him. Every enemy he made would come for me. Every rival would target me to get to him. I'd spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, and he'd spend the rest of his life watching me die in pieces." Elena's voice cracked. "I loved him too much to let that happen, so I became a ghost." "He thinks you're dead." "I know." "You let him believe that for 8 years." "Yes." "That's unforgivable." "I know that too." Elena looked away. "But it kept him alive. He stopped caring about anything except survival. He stopped making emotional decisions. He became the kind of man who couldn't be hurt because he had nothing left to lose. And it worked. For 8 years, it worked. Until me." Elena met her eyes. "Until you." Serena's throat was tight. "What does that mean?" "It means you made him care again. You made him vulnerable. And the moment that happened, people started noticing." "What people?" Elena pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were photographs, documents, federal surveillance reports. "David Brennan didn't betray Lucien because the feds offered him immunity," Elena said. "He betrayed Lucien because someone paid him $5 million to do it. Someone who's been waiting 8 years for Lucien to show weakness. And the moment you walked into his life, they saw their opening." Serena's hands were shaking as she flipped through the documents. Bank transfers, offshore accounts, communications between Brennan and someone using an encrypted phone. "Who paid him?" Serena asked. "Marco Salerno." The name hit Serena like a brick. The man from the charity event. The one who'd looked at her like she was a problem to be solved. Why? Because Marco's been trying to take over Lucien's territory for a decade, but he could never do it while Lucien was untouchable. So he waited. And when you showed up, he saw his chance, a weakness, someone Lucien cared about, someone he could use. "How do you know all this?" Elena's expression darkened. "Because I've been watching. For 8 years, I've been tracking every threat against Lucien from the shadows. I couldn't be with him, but I could protect him. And when Marco started making moves 3 months ago, I started digging. That's how I found out about Brennan. That's how I found out about the setup." "What setup?" "The federal arrest. It's theater. Marco paid off half the agents involved. They're not taking Lucien to a federal facility. They're delivering him straight to Marco. And the moment Lucien's in his hands, Marco's going to kill him and make it look like a prison transfer gone wrong." Serena felt like she'd been punched in the chest. "When?" "Tomorrow, 6 p.m. They're moving him from the holding facility in Manhattan to a transport station in Queens. But the convoy is going to be intercepted on the Queensboro Bridge. So we stopped the convoy. We can't. Marco's got 20 armed men and half the route locked down. If we try to interfere, Lucien dies in the crossfire." "Then what do we do?" Elena leaned forward. Her eyes were steel. "We go after Marco. Directly. Tonight. Before the transfer happens. We force him to call off the hit." "How?" "By giving him something he wants more than Lucien's death. What could possibly be worth more than killing his biggest rival?" Elena smiled. It was cold, sharp. "Me, tick." They drove back to Manhattan in Elena's car, a nondescript sedan with jersey plates and a trunk full of equipment Serena didn't want to think about too hard. Elena explained the plan while she drove. It was reckless, suicidal, exactly the kind of thing that would either work perfectly or get them both killed. Marco Salerno operated out of a social club in Little Italy, a front for his real business, which ran through the basement and the 3 floors above. He'd be there tonight. He was always there on Thursdays. The plan was simple. Walk in, take him hostage, and force him to make the call that would save Lucien's life. Simple. Insane. But simple. You know this is going to get us killed, Serena said. Probably. And you're okay with that? Elena's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I've been dead for 8 years. If I die for real this time saving him, that's a fair trade. What if he never forgives you for faking your death? Then I'll die knowing I saved his life. That's enough. Serena stared at her. This woman, this ghost, had spent nearly a decade protecting a man who thought she was buried in a cemetery in Queens. It was the most tragic, selfless, completely insane thing she'd ever heard. He loved you, Serena said quietly. I know. He still loves you. Elena's jaw tightened. No. He loved who I was, the version of me that existed before I got beaten half to death and decided to disappear. That person's gone. What's left is just someone trying to make sure he doesn't die for caring about the wrong people. I think you're wrong. You've known him 5 weeks. And in 5 weeks, I've seen him more clearly than you think. He's not mourning the old you. He's mourning the fact that you're gone at all. Elena didn't respond. She just kept driving, her knuckles white against the wheel. Oh, they reached Little Italy just after 3 in the morning. The social club sat on a quiet corner, nondescript brick building with a green awning and no sign. Light glowed from the second-floor windows. Elena parked 2 blocks away and killed the engine. She reached into the back seat and pulled out a duffel bag. Inside were 2 handguns, zip ties, duct tape, and a knife. You know how to use this? Elena asked, offering Serena one of the guns. No. Then now's a good time to learn. Safety's here. Point and shoot. Don't hesitate. If someone comes at you, you pull the trigger. Serena took the gun. It was heavier than she expected. Cold. Real. I can't believe I'm doing this, she said. You don't have to. You can walk away right now. Go back to the safe house. Disappear. I'll handle this alone. And let you die? I've been dead before. It's not so bad. Stop joking. I'm not joking. Elena checked her own gun and tucked it into the waistband of her jeans. I'm giving you an out. Take it if you want. No judgment. Serena stared at the gun in her hand, then at the building 2 blocks away. She thought about Lucien, the way he'd kissed her before pushing her toward Vincent, the way he'd looked at her in the library, the way his voice had cracked when he said he couldn't lose someone else. I'm not walking away, Serena said. Elena nodded. Then let's go. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the club was dark, empty. A pool table sat in the center. A bar lined the back wall. Everything smelled like cigars and old wood. Elena moved through the space like a ghost, her footsteps silent. Serena followed, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone in Manhattan could hear it. They reached a door at the back marked private. Elena tested the handle. Locked. She pulled out a thin piece of metal and worked it into the lock. 10 seconds later, the door clicked open. Stairs led down into darkness. Elena descended first. Serena followed, the gun heavy in her hand. The basement was bigger than the club above. An open space with concrete walls, dim lighting, and a table surrounded by chairs in the center. Marco Salerno sat at the head of the table, alone, reviewing paperwork. He looked up when they entered. His face didn't register surprise, just mild annoyance. Elena Moretti, he said calmly. Back from the dead. How theatrical. Elena raised her gun. Hands on the table, don't move. Marco complied slowly, a thin smile on his face. You know, for a dead woman, you're causing a lot of trouble. Call off the hit on Lucien. No. I'm not asking. Neither am I. Marco leaned back in his chair. You walk in here with a gun and a civilian, and you think that scares me? I've got 12 armed men in this building. You won't make it out alive. Then we'll die together. Call off the hit. Not happening. Elena stepped closer. You're intercepting the convoy tomorrow at 6. You're planning to kill him on the bridge. I know everything, Marco. Every detail, every player. So unless you want me to burn your entire operation to the ground, you call off the hit right now. Marco's smile widened. You think you've got leverage? You've got nothing. Even if you kill me, the hit still happens. I've got contingencies. I've got backups. Lucien Moretti is dead no matter what you do. Then I'll make sure you die first. Go ahead. Marco spread his hands. Pull the trigger. See what happens. Elena's finger tightened on the trigger. Then Serena heard the footsteps behind her. She spun around. 4 men stood at the base of the stairs, guns drawn. They'd walked into a trap. Marco laughed. Did you really think I wouldn't see you coming? I've been tracking you since you left Jersey. The moment you walked into this building, I knew. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to put down your guns, you're going to sit down, and you're going to watch while I finish what I started 8 years ago. Elena didn't lower her weapon. You kill me. Lucien will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Lucien's going to be dead by tomorrow night, so I'll take my chances. The men behind Serena moved closer. She could feel her pulse in her throat. The gun in her hand felt useless. Then Elena did something Serena didn't expect. She dropped her gun. You want me? Elena said. Fine. You've got me. Just let her go. She's not part of this. Neither are you anymore, Marco said. But here we are. Marco, please. Sit down, both of you. The men forced them into chairs. Zip ties cut into Serena's wrists. Her gun was taken. Her phone was tossed into a corner. Marco stood and walked around the table, stopping in front of Elena. You know what the funny thing is, he said. Lucien thinks you're dead. He spent 8 years mourning you, and now when he dies tomorrow, he'll die believing you were already gone. He'll never know you tried to save him. That's poetic, don't you think? Elena's eyes were burning. You're a coward. No, I'm a businessman, and Lucien Moretti's been bad for business for 2 decades, so I'm cutting my losses. He turned to the men. Lock them in the storage room upstairs. I'll deal with them after the convoy's done. The men grabbed them and dragged them toward the stairs. Serena's mind was racing. They were out of options, out of time. Lucien was going to die, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Then she heard the gunshot. It came from somewhere above, sharp, echoing through the building like thunder. Everyone froze. More gunshots, shouting, the sound of bodies hitting the floor. Marco's face went pale. What the hell? The basement door exploded open. Vincent Caruso stood at the top of the stairs, a gun in each hand, his face carved from stone. Behind him were 6 men from Lucien's security team. Let them go, Vincent said. Marco's men raised their weapons. Vincent didn't hesitate. He fired. The basement erupted into chaos. Serena hit the floor, her hands still zip-tied behind her back. Bullets tore through the air above her. Men screamed, bodies dropped. Vincent moved like a machine, precise, lethal, unstoppable. Within 30 seconds, all 4 of Marco's men were dead. Marco himself had ducked behind the table, his gun drawn. Vincent descended the stairs slowly, his weapons trained on the table. Come out, Marco. You're a dead man, Caruso. Maybe. But you're dying first. Marco stood, his hands raised. You can't do this. You kill me, you start a war. The war already started. You just didn't know it. Vincent pulled the trigger. Marco dropped. The basement went silent. Vincent crossed the room and cut Serena's zip ties with a knife. Then he did the same for Elena. How did you find us? Serena asked, her voice shaking. I've been tracking Elena for 3 months, Vincent said. The moment she surfaced, I knew something was wrong, so I followed you both here. Elena stared at him. You knew I was alive? I suspected. I could never prove it. But when Serena disappeared from the safe house, I put it together. Does Lucien know? Not yet. But he's about to. Serena stood, her legs shaking. The convoy. Marco said there's a backup plan. There is, but we're not stopping it remotely. Vincent looked at Elena. We're stopping it in person. You ready to come back from the dead? Elena's jaw tightened. Will he forgive me? I don't know, but if you don't show up, he's going to die thinking you abandoned him 8 years ago. So you tell me, what's worse? Elena closed her eyes. Then she nodded. Let's go. They reached the Queensboro Bridge at 5:30. The convoy wasn't scheduled to pass through until 6, but Vincent wanted to get there early, scout the route, find the ambush points. The bridge was nearly empty. Traffic was light. Fog rolled off the East River, thick and gray. Vincent's team spread out across the bridge, some on foot, some in vehicles, all armed. Elena stood beside Serena near the center span, staring at the water below.
"What if he doesn't want to see me?" Elena said quietly. "Then you deal with it," Serena replied, "but at least he'll be alive to make that choice." Elena looked at her. "You love him." It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Does he know?" "No." "You should tell him." "I don't think I'll get the chance." "You will, because we're not letting him die today." Serena wanted to believe her. At 5:55, headlights appeared in the distance. The convoy, 3 vehicles, federal markings, moving slowly across the bridge. Vincent's voice crackled through the radio. "Positions! Everyone hold until I give the signal." The convoy moved closer. Serena's heart was pounding. Then she saw them, 2 black vans blocking the road ahead. Men pouring out, weapons raised. The backup plan. The convoy screeched to a halt. Gunfire erupted. Vincent's team moved in from both sides, returning fire. Serena and Elena ran toward the center vehicle, the one carrying Lucien. Bullets tore through the air around them. Serena ducked behind a car. Elena kept running. She reached the transport vehicle and ripped open the back door. Inside, Lucien sat in handcuffs, his face battered, his eyes wide with shock. He stared at Elena like he was seeing a ghost. "No," he whispered. "No, you're dead. I'm here." Elena's voice cracked. "I'm here, Lucien, and we're getting you out." She pulled him out of the vehicle just as a bullet tore through the side panel where his head had been. Lucien stumbled, still staring at her like she might disappear. Later. Run. Now." They ran. Serena followed, her lungs burning. Behind them, Vincent's team pushed back Marco's men. Bodies fell. Cars exploded. They reached the edge of the bridge. Vincent was waiting with a car. "Get in." They dove inside. The car peeled away, tires screaming against asphalt. Behind them, the bridge was chaos. Fire, smoke, the sound of sirens approaching. Inside the car, silence. Lucien sat between Elena and Serena, his hands still cuffed, his chest heaving. He looked at Elena, then at Serena, then back at Elena. "You're alive," he said. "Yes." "For 8 years. You've been alive for 8 years." "Yes." His face twisted, not with relief, with rage. "Get me out of these handcuffs," he said quietly. Vincent pulled over, cut the cuffs. Lucien stepped out of the car into the cold night air. And then he screamed. It wasn't words, just sound, raw, broken. 8 years of grief and rage and betrayal pouring out of him like blood from a wound. Elena stepped out of the car. Lucien turned on her. "How could you?" His voice was shaking. "How could you let me think you were dead?" "I did it to protect you. You destroyed me. I saved you. You made me into this." He gestured at himself, at the blood, the scars, the hollow shell of the man he used to be. "I spent 8 years turning myself into a monster because I thought there was nothing left worth protecting. And you were alive the whole time? I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. I know." They stood there 10 feet apart, both shaking. Then Lucien said quietly, "I buried you. I stood over your grave and I promised I'd never let anyone close again. And I kept that promise. For 8 years I kept it. Until her." He pointed at Serena. "She made me care again. And I hated her for it. Because caring meant I'd have to feel everything I'd buried when you died. And I couldn't survive that again." Elena's face crumpled. "Lucien, you should have stayed dead." His voice broke. "Because the version of me that loved you is gone. And I don't know how to get him back." He walked away into the fog. Elena stood there, tears streaming down her face. Serena climbed out of the car and put a hand on her shoulder. "Give him time," Serena said. "I've given him 8 years. Then give him one more night." Elena nodded, wiping her eyes. In the distance, Lucien stood at the edge of the road, staring at nothing. And Serena realized the hardest battle wasn't behind them. It was just beginning. They found shelter in an abandoned warehouse in Red Hook, one of Lucien's old safe houses that hadn't been touched in years. Vincent's team secured the perimeter while the sun rose over Brooklyn, painting the East River in shades of bruised purple and gold. Inside, the warehouse was cold, empty. Just concrete floors and broken windows, and the ghosts of a dozen operations that had run through this place before the world fell apart. Lucien sat on a crate near the far wall, his head in his hands. Elena stood by the entrance, watching him. Serena stood between them, feeling like the only living thing in a graveyard. Vincent appeared in the doorway. Federal agents are tearing apart Manhattan looking for you. Marco's people are scattered, but some of them are still loyal. We've got maybe 12 hours before someone finds us. Then we use those 12 hours, Serena said. To do what? To figure out what happens next. Vincent looked at Lucien, then at Elena, then back at Serena. Good luck with that, he said quietly, and walked away. Serena crossed the warehouse and stopped in front of Lucien. We need to talk, she said. Not now. Yes, now. He lifted his head. His eyes were red, hollow. I don't have anything to say. Then listen. She knelt down so they were eye level. 8 years ago, Elena made a choice. She thought she was protecting you. Maybe she was. Maybe she wasn't. But that choice kept you alive. It kept you functioning. It kept you from becoming the kind of target that gets killed in their sleep because they're too broken to see it coming. She lied to me. She loved you. There's a difference. Not to me. Serena grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. You don't get to fall apart now, not after everything we just survived. Marco's dead. The feds are scrambling. You're alive. Elena's alive. I'm alive. We won. So stop acting like this is the end of the world and start figuring out how to live in the one we just saved. His jaw tightened under her hands. You don't understand what it's like, mourning someone, building your entire life around their absence, and then finding out they were never gone. You're right. I don't understand, but I do know what it's like to be sold to a man who treated me like furniture, who humiliated me at my own wedding, who spent 5 weeks pretending I didn't exist until the exact moment he realized he couldn't lose me. Her voice cracked. So yeah, I don't understand your pain, but I understand what it's like to care about someone who's too scared to care back. Lucien stared at her. His breath was shallow. I'm not scared, he said quietly. Yes, you are. You're terrified. Because if you forgive Elena, you have to admit that the last 8 years were built on a lie. And if you forgive me, you have to admit that you're capable of loving someone again. And both of those things mean you can be hurt. I've already been hurt. Then what's one more scar? He pulled away from her hands and stood, walked to the window, stared out at the water. I don't know how to do this, he said. Do what? Live. Without the anger. Without the grief. I've spent 8 years using it as fuel. If I let it go, what's left? You are. Just you. Without the armor. I don't know who that is anymore. Then figure it out. He turned, looked at her, really looked at her. Why are you still here? He asked. Because I love you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Lucien's face went pale. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. You've known me 5 weeks. I've known you long enough. I'm a murderer, Serena. I've killed people. I've destroyed lives. I've done things you can't even imagine. I know. And you still... Yes. He shook his head. You're insane. Probably. But I'm also here. And I'm not leaving. So you can push me away or you can let me stay. But either way, I love you. And that's not going to change just because you're too stubborn to believe it. Lucien stared at her. His hands were shaking. Then he crossed the room, pulled her into his arms, and held her like she was the only thing keeping him from collapsing. Serena wrapped her arms around him and felt his chest heaving against hers. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair, for everything, for the wedding, for shutting you out, for making you feel like you didn't matter. You're forgiven. I don't deserve that. I know, but you're getting it anyway. He pulled back and cupped her face in his hands. His eyes were wet. I don't know how to be the man you need me to be. I don't need you to be anyone except who you are. Who I am is broken. Then we'll be broken together. He kissed her. Soft. Desperate. Like he was trying to memorize the shape of her mouth. When he pulled back, he said quietly, "I love you too. I've loved you since the night you walked into the library and refused to leave. I just didn't know how to say it." Serena smiled through her tears. "You just did." Behind them, Elena cleared her throat. They both turned. She stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "I'm happy for you," Elena said. "Really, but we still need to talk." Lucian's face hardened. "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is, because you can't keep running from this. You can't keep pretending I don't exist just because it's easier than dealing with what I did. You let me think you were dead. I know. For 8 years. I know. And you expect me to just forgive that?" "No." Elena stepped into the room. "I expect you to hate me. I expect you to never look at me the same way again, but I also expect you to understand why I did it." "I don't care why you did it." "Yes, you do. Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't still be angry." Lucien's hands curled into fists. "You destroyed me, Elena. I saved you. By making me into a monster? By keeping you alive long enough to meet someone who could pull you back." She looked at Serena. "She did what I couldn't. She made you care again. She made you human again. And if I hadn't disappeared 8 years ago, you'd be dead right now, because you would have kept trying to protect me. And eventually, someone would have used that against you. That wasn't your choice to make." "Yes, it was, because you would have died for me, and I couldn't let that happen." Lucien's voice broke. "You didn't give me a choice." "No, I didn't, because you would have made the wrong one." Silence filled the warehouse. Then Lucian said quietly, "I stood over your grave and I promised you I'd never let anyone close again, and I kept that promise. Until her." He gestured at Serena. "She made me break it, and I hated her for it, because it meant feeling everything I'd buried when you died. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this." "I know, but it's all I've got." Lucian stared at her. His chest was heaving. His eyes were wet. Then he crossed the room and stopped in front of her. "I loved you," he said. "More than anything. More than my own life. And when I thought you died, I died with you. I spent 8 years as a ghost pretending to be a man. And now you're standing here alive and I don't know what to feel." Elena's voice was steady. "Then don't feel anything. Just know that I never stopped protecting you. Even when you thought I was gone. Even when I couldn't be there. I was always watching. Always making sure you survived." "Why?" "Because you deserve to live. Even if I couldn't live beside you." Lucian's face crumpled. He pulled her into a hug, tight, desperate, broken. Elena wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." They stood there for a long time, holding each other like the world was ending. When they finally pulled apart, Lucian's face was wet. "I don't know if I can forgive you," he said. "I don't need forgiveness. I just need you to understand." "I do. And I hate that I do." Elena almost smiled. "That's a start." "That's." Vincent returned an hour later with news that wasn't good. "Federal agents found the convoy wreckage," he said. "They're treating it as a terrorist attack. They're putting out a nationwide manhunt for Lucian. Every airport, every train station, every border crossing is being watched." "So we can't leave the country," Lucian said. "Not easily." "What about staying?" "Staying means constantly looking over your shoulder. Marco's dead, but his organization isn't. Some of them will want revenge. Others will see this as an opportunity to take over. You'll be fighting wars on multiple fronts." "I've done that before." "Not like this. Not with the feds involved." Lucian looked at Serena, then at Elena, then back at Vincent. "What if I walk away?" he said quietly. Everyone stopped. "What?" Vincent said. "What if I just walk away from all of it? The empire, the organization, the whole goddamn thing?" "You can't walk away. You're Lucien Moretti. People don't just let you retire." "Then I'll make them let me." "How?" Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "By giving them something they want more than my head." It took 3 days to put the plan together. Lucien reached out to every major player in New York's underworld. The families, the crews, the independents. He called in favors. He made promises. He offered territory and resources and connections he'd spent 2 decades building. And in exchange, he asked for one thing: peace. Not for the city, for himself. He wanted out. Completely. No obligations, no alliances, no wars, just a clean exit. Most of them laughed at him, but a few listened. And by the end of the week, Lucien had brokered the impossible. A truce. An agreement signed by 8 of the most powerful criminal organizations in New York. Lucien Moretti would disappear. His territory would be divided among the remaining families. His assets would be liquidated and distributed. In return, no one would come looking for him. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a negotiated surrender. But it was enough. The federal investigation hit a wall when their key witness, David Brennan, turned up dead in a hotel room in Newark, apparent suicide. No note, just a body and a gun, and the kind of timing that made everyone involved very nervous. Without Brennan's testimony, the case against Lucien collapsed. The evidence was circumstantial. The charges were shaky. And with Marco Salerno dead and his organization in chaos, nobody wanted to push forward. The arrest warrant was quietly withdrawn. Lucien Moretti was officially a free man, at least on paper. 3 weeks later, Serena stood on a beach in the Outer Banks watching the sun set over the Atlantic. The house behind her was small, rented, anonymous, the kind of place you'd never look twice at if you drove past. Perfect. Lucien came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know yet." Fair answer. "Are you okay?" He was quiet for a moment, then he said, "I think so. For the first time in a long time, I think I might actually be okay." Serena leaned back against him. "What now?" "Now we figure out how to live like normal people." "You think that's possible?" "No, but I'm willing to try." She smiled. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." "I'm counting on it." They stood there watching the waves roll in, the sky turning pink and orange and gold. Behind them, the door opened. Elena stepped out onto the porch. She'd cut her hair short, dyed it lighter, started wearing glasses. She looked completely different from the woman in the photographs. "Dinner's ready," she said. Lucien turned, looked at her. "You didn't have to cook." "I wanted to." "Why?" "Because it's been 8 years since I've been able to do something normal, and cooking dinner for people I care about feels like a good place to start." Lucien's jaw tightened. Then he nodded. "Thank you." Elena smiled. It was tentative, fragile, but real. "You're welcome." They walked inside together, the 3 of them, tangled together by violence and grief, and the kind of love that refuses to die no matter how hard you bury it. 2 months later, Serena woke to the sound of rain against the windows. Lucien was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring out at the storm. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Old habits?" She sat up beside him. "What are you thinking about?" "Antonio, Elena, everything that happened. I keep wondering if I made the right choices." "Did you?" "I don't know. I killed a man who was trying to save me. I walked away from an empire I spent 20 years building. I'm living in a beach house under a fake name with 2 women who've both seen me at my worst." He looked at her. "None of this should work, but somehow it does." "Maybe that's the point." "What do you mean?" "Maybe the right choices aren't the ones that make sense. Maybe they're just the ones you can live with." Lucien was quiet. Then he said, "I can live with this." "Good, because you're stuck with it." He smiled. It was small, tired, but genuine. "I'm stuck with you too," he said. "Lucky you." "Yeah, lucky me." He kissed her forehead and lay back down, pulling her against him. Outside, the storm rolled across the ocean, loud and wild and temporary. But inside, for the first time in years, there was quiet. 6 months later, Vincent visited. He showed up unannounced on a Saturday morning with a bag of groceries and the kind of expression that said he had news. They sat on the porch drinking coffee while the waves crashed against the shore. "The organization's completely dissolved," Vincent said. "Most of the guys scattered. A few got picked up by other families. A couple retired. Nobody's looking for you anymore." "Good," Lucien said. "Your father's debts are cleared," Vincent said to Serena. "Your brother's doing well, got a job, staying clean." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank Lucien. He made sure they were protected." Serena looked at Lucien.
He didn't meet her eyes. You didn't tell me, she said. Didn't seem important. It's important to me, he shrugged. They're your family. I wasn't going to let them get hurt because of choices I made. Serena's throat tightened. She reached over and took his hand. Vincent cleared his throat. There's something else. What? The feds closed the investigation, officially. No charges, no warrants. As far as they're concerned, Lucian Moretti disappeared and they've moved on to bigger problems. So it's really over, Serena said. Yeah, it's really over. Lucian exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath for months and only now realized he could let it go. What are you going to do now? He asked Vincent. Don't know yet. Maybe find a beach somewhere, drink beer, pretend I never worked for a crime boss. You'd be terrible at retirement. Yeah, probably. Vincent stood. Take care of yourself, Lucian, and take care of them. I will. Vincent nodded and walked back to his car. They watched him drive away, the dust kicking up behind his tires. You think we'll ever see him again? Serena asked. Maybe, if we're lucky. Are we lucky? Lucien looked at her, then at Elena, who was sitting on the steps reading a book, then back at Serena. Yeah, he said. I think we are. A year after the wedding that almost destroyed everything, Lucien and Serena stood on the same beach at sunset. This time, there were no cameras, no guests, no cathedral filled with strangers, just the two of them, Elena standing witness, and a simple exchange of words that meant more than any vow ever could. I promise to stay, Lucien said. Even when it's hard, even when I'm scared, even when everything in me tells me to run, I'll stay. Serena smiled through her tears. I promise to stay too, and to remind you every day that you're not the man you were. You're the man you're becoming, and I love both of them. He kissed her under the fading light while the ocean roared and the sky turned gold. When they pulled apart, Elena was crying. That was beautiful, she said. Thank you for being here, Serena said. I wouldn't have missed it. Lucien looked at Elena. You doing okay? Getting there. It's strange. Building a life after spending so long just surviving, but I think I'm figuring it out. Good. Because you're stuck with us now. Elena smiled. I can live with that. They walked back to the house together as the sun disappeared below the horizon, leaving nothing but stars and the sound of waves and the quiet knowledge that sometimes the hardest battles aren't the ones you fight with fists and guns. Sometimes they're the ones you fight with your own heart. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you win. 2 years later, Serena sat in a rocking chair on the porch, a baby sleeping against her chest. Lucien came outside with 2 cups of coffee and sat down beside her. She's out cold, he whispered. Finally. She's been fighting sleep for an hour. She gets that from you. She gets that from you. They both smiled. Inside, Elena was cleaning up from dinner, humming quietly to herself. She'd started teaching at a local elementary school under a new name. Started rebuilding the life she'd left behind 8 years ago. She was happy. They all were. Not perfect, not without scars, but happy. Lucien reached over and touched his daughter's tiny hand. She wrapped her fingers around his. You ever think about the cathedral? He asked quietly. Sometimes. I was such an asshole. Yeah, you were. I'm sorry. I know, and I've forgiven you, so stop apologizing. He looked at her. How did we get here? One day at a time. One choice at a time. One broken piece at a time. And now? Now we just keep going. Lucien leaned over and kissed her forehead. I love you. I love you too. The baby stirred in Serena's arms, making soft sounds in her sleep. And as the stars began appearing above the ocean, Serena realized something profound. The man who'd stood at that altar and whispered that his heart belonged to someone dead was gone. In his place was someone new, someone who'd learned that hearts don't belong to the dead. They belong to the living. And the living are the ones who choose every single day to keep loving even when it's hard, even when it's terrifying, even when everything inside them says it's safer to stay closed. Because love isn't about safety, it's about showing up. And Lucien Moretti had finally learned how to show up.
Not as a king, not as a monster, not as a ghost, just as a man, flawed, scarred, trying, and that was enough.